3 scary true Walmart horror stories. Like and subscribe so you don't miss our next chilling horror story with new stories every week. I used to work the graveyard shift at a 24-hour Walmart in Missouri, back when I was in my early 20s and just trying to make rent. It wasn't glamorous, but I liked the quiet. No screaming kids, no long lines, no angry customers. Just the buzz of the fluorescent lights, the occasional whir of the floor cleaner, and me, stocking shelves in the dead of night. One night, around 2:30 a.m., I was alone in the paper goods aisle. I was stacking toilet paper when I heard a soft shuffle coming from the far end of the aisle. I turned, expecting to see one of the other overnight workers, maybe Carlos or Mandy. But no one was there. I waited a few seconds, staring down the aisle. Nothing. Just rows of pristine shelves and a faint humming from the refrigerators over in dairy. I shook it off. Could have been the AC kicking in or a rat. That store was old and always had weird sounds. But as I turned back to finish the stack, I heard it again, this time closer. A distinct dragging sound, like someone sliding their feet across the linoleum. And then, whispering. Too soft to make out, but definitely words. I froze. "Carlos?" I called out. Silence. Not funny, man. Still nothing. I slowly walked toward the end of the aisle, trying to listen for movement. When I peeked around the corner into the next aisle, I saw a tall man in a dark hoodie standing perfectly still, staring up at the shelves of cereal. His back was to me, but something about his posture was wrong, rigid, tense, like he wasn't browsing, just standing. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "The store's closed to customers right now." He didn't move. I took a step closer. "You need to leave, or I'll call security." Still no reaction. I glanced around. We didn't have real security overnight, just a couple of cameras monitored from the front office. And Frank, the night manager, was usually half asleep in the break room. I pulled out my walkie and radioed him. "Frank, you copy? There's some guy in aisle 12 who doesn't belong here." A crackle, then, "Be right there." I looked back at the man, and he was gone. I swear I didn't even blink. Just turned my head for a second to check the walkie, then looked back and he wasn't there anymore. I walked up and down the aisle, checked both ends, peeked around the other rows. Nothing. No sign of him. When Frank arrived, I told him what happened. He laughed and said I was just tired, maybe imagining things. But I knew I saw someone. I even checked the security feed later that night. But weirdly, that whole section, aisle 12 through 15, was just black. Not static, not fuzzy, just a blank screen. That was the first time. A few nights later, Mandy told me she'd seen someone too. She was in the back near the loading dock when she saw a man standing just outside the bay doors, staring in through the window. She said he looked soaked, like he'd been standing in the rain. But it hadn't rained in over a week. By the time she got Frank, he was gone. We started joking about the Walmart ghost. But deep down, none of us were really laughing. Things kept happening. Boxes would fall off shelves with no one around. Lights flickered in certain aisles, cold spots. And always, that feeling of being watched. One night, maybe 2 weeks after I saw the man in the cereal aisle, I was in the electronics section, restocking DVDs. The store was dead silent. Suddenly, every single TV on the display wall flickered on at once. They weren't even supposed to be connected. Just rows of blank screens suddenly lighting up with static. Then, through the static, a face appeared. Not fully formed, more like a blurry image caught between channels. It was the same man, the hoodie, the face half covered in shadow, just staring. I dropped the box I was holding and bolted. Frank didn't believe me, said maybe someone pranked the TV system, said maybe I'd fallen asleep and dreamed it. But I didn't dream the glass shards. One of the TVs cracked right down the middle, like someone had punched it from the inside. I quit a week later. I couldn't take it anymore. The others left slowly too. Carlos put in his notice. Mandy transferred to the day shift. And Frank? He stayed. A few months ago, I ran into an old coworker who told me that store finally shut down. Corporate said it was for renovations, but no one's touched it since. Just boarded up windows and a for-lease sign. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about that man in the hoodie. I wonder if he was ever real. If he died there. If he's still inside that empty Walmart, waiting for someone else to wander in at 2:30 a.m. If you ever take a night job at one of those 24-hour stores, don't ignore the whispers, and don't ever look too long at the security monitors. You might not like who's staring back. I worked the overnight cleaning shift at a Walmart in rural Pennsylvania for a little over a year. It wasn't glamorous work, mostly pushing a floor scrubber around, emptying trash, and occasionally dealing with messes in the bathrooms. But I liked the quiet. The store was closed to customers from midnight to 6 a.m., and usually there were only about 5 or 6 people on shift at any given time. A couple of stockers, a night manager, someone in the back unloading pallets, and me. The weirdness started around early February. It was just me and Brandon, another overnight guy I was friendly with, working the front half of the store that night. He was in produce, and I was doing the floors in electronics and toys. At one point, I walked past the clothing section and noticed something strange. There was a cart sitting in the middle of the women's sleepwear aisle. No big deal. Maybe someone left it there earlier. But when I looked inside, it was filled with what looked like random items. A pair of toddler shoes, 2 packs of raw ground beef, a Barbie doll, a hammer, and a pack of latex gloves. No receipt, no bags. I asked Brandon if he knew who left it there. He didn't. I shrugged it off and pushed it back to the returns area. But over the next few weeks, similar carts kept popping up, always in strange spots, always with odd combinations of items. Once I found one near the garden center with a single kitchen knife, 4 cans of cat food, and a worn-out teddy bear that looked decades old. Another time it was in the back corner of toys, bleach, zip ties, a dog leash, and a half-empty bottle of Mountain Dew. That one made me pause. We told our night manager, Daryl, and he joked that maybe someone was living in the store, like that old urban legend. We laughed, but then he got quiet and said, "Still, keep an eye out." One night, maybe around 2:30 a.m., I was working in the back of the store near automotive. That area always gave me the creeps. Dimmer lighting, fewer cameras, and hardly any foot traffic even during the day. I heard something. Not loud, but a kind of soft dragging noise, like someone shuffling along the linoleum. I turned off my scrubber and stood still. The noise stopped too. I slowly walked a few aisles down, peeking toward the oil and windshield fluid shelves. Nothing. I was about to turn around when I heard a cough, dry, raspy, and close. I turned fast. But again, no one. I started backing away, heart racing a bit. Just as I was rounding the corner, I caught something in the corner of my eye. Someone slipping behind the big shelf that held winter tires. I called out, "Hey, this area's closed to customers." No response. I walked up cautiously, not wanting to startle some poor stalker or maintenance guy. But when I turned the corner, the space was empty. Just a trail of small wet footprints leading away down the aisle. That was enough for me. I went straight to Daryl, who pulled up the security cams. Problem was, the camera facing that part of automotive had gone black around 2:10 a.m., just static. The tech guy later said the feed had been interrupted, which sometimes happens. Sure. Daryl didn't laugh it off this time. He put out a notice that no one was to go into automotive alone after 2 a.m. and started doing walkarounds every hour. Things escalated a week later. I was doing floors near the lawn and garden section when the lights suddenly flickered. Not unusual. Walmart's power grid in our area was old. But this time, only the lights in my section dimmed. Then I heard the intercom crackle on. It was faint, almost like a whisper. But I swear I heard a voice say, "Please exit the store immediately." The voice wasn't anyone I recognized. It wasn't Daryl or Brandon or anyone from our team. It sounded wrong, stretched, distorted. Like an old recording being played back too slowly. I walked up to the front to ask Daryl if he'd made an announcement. He hadn't. No one had. We checked the intercom system, and it had no record of any recent use. That same night, a new card appeared. This one was pushed right up against the employee break room door. Inside it were 3 items: a pack of adult diapers, a rusted crowbar, and a disposable camera, used with the film still inside. Daryl locked the cart in the storage room and called corporate the next morning. They didn't give us any answers, just told us to document any future incidents, and assured us that store security was being reviewed. But nothing changed. 2 nights later, Brandon quit. He didn't give 2 weeks, didn't even text. Just clocked out at 1 a.m. and never came back. I called him that weekend to check in. He answered, sounding tired, real tired. "You should leave, man," he said. "That place ain't right." I asked what he meant, but he just said, "There's something in there. I saw it, in the garden center. It smiled at me." That was enough for me to put in my notice. I finished the week and never looked back. I still think about those carts sometimes. Whoever left them behind knew exactly what they were doing. Like they were arranging little puzzles, messages, warnings. Every so often, I wonder what was on that disposable camera. But I don't wonder hard enough to go back and find out. I used to work as a night shift janitor at a 24-hour Walmart just outside Flagstaff, Arizona. It was the kind of job where no one bothered you, and most nights passed in silence. You'd clock in around 10 p.m., mop the floors, wipe down the shelves, and be gone before the sun came up. It was lonely but peaceful. At least it was supposed to be. My first couple of months were uneventful. I got used to the strange quiet of the store at night, especially those middle hours between 2 and 4 a.m., when it felt like the world itself had gone to sleep. There were usually only a few other people working, 1 or 2 shelf stockers, sometimes a late manager in the back office. It never felt creepy. But then came the night that changed everything. It was sometime in November. The store was pushing their early Black Friday deals. So there were cardboard displays and signs everywhere, making the layout even more confusing than usual. That night, I was assigned to clean up the toy aisle and electronics section. I grabbed my cart, mop, and bucket and got to it. It was about 3:10 a.m. when I first noticed something off. I was in the toy aisle, alone, when I heard the distinct sound of a cart rolling across the tile. Not the dull rubber thump of my cleaning cart, but the sharp rattle of a shopping cart. That wasn't unusual during the day, but at this hour, it didn't make sense. No customers were allowed in during overnight stocking shifts. I peeked my head around the corner, expecting to see one of the shelf stockers goofing off, maybe pushing a cart full of stuff. But the aisle was empty. Then I saw it. At the far end of the aisle, a shopping cart was just sitting there, turned slightly toward the candy shelves. No one around. I figured someone left it there and moved on, so I shrugged it off. But the sound started again, rattle, rattle, and this time it was closer. I looked back. The cart had moved. I'm not saying it rolled a little. I mean, it had turned, now pointing straight at me, halfway down the aisle. My first instinct was that it was a prank, maybe the guys in the back messing with me. I even shouted, "All right, real funny, guys." But no one answered. I walked toward the cart, ready to push it back to its bay. But I got this heavy feeling in my chest the closer I got. Like I was walking into something I didn't understand. I gripped the handle and felt heat. The metal was warm, almost hot. That made no sense. The AC ran cold in that store, and the carts were always freezing to the touch. I backed off, and the overhead lights flickered. Once, twice, then went completely dark. Total silence, total black. And then, movement. From the corner of my eye, I saw something dart across the end of the aisle. Not someone, something. I couldn't make out a shape, just a blur in the dark. My breath caught in my throat. I reached for my phone, turned on the flashlight, and swung it toward the movement. There was nothing. Just shelves of toys, staring back. That's when the whispering started. It sounded like dozens of voices, too low to understand, overlapping each other like a crowd murmuring in prayer. It was coming from the speakers, the ones used for intercom announcements. Except no one was in the manager's office to activate them. The voices grew louder, almost chanting now. One word repeated, over and over. Return, return, return. I sprinted toward the electronics section. I figured if I could get to the security desk, maybe I could see something on the monitors. As I reached the corner, I nearly ran into a man standing there. Only, he wasn't standing. He was hovering. He looked like a customer, jeans, jacket, bald. But his feet were about 6 inches off the floor. His head was tilted all the way to the side, unnaturally, like someone had tried to twist it completely around and gave up halfway. His eyes were milky white, and he was smiling. The lights flickered back on for just a second, and in that flash, I saw more of them. Not just one, but 10. All hovering, all smiling, all staring at me. I ran. I didn't stop to clean up anything. I left my cart, my tools, everything. I burst through the side employee door and didn't come back until morning. When I explained what happened to the manager, she looked at me like I was insane. Said I probably fell asleep or hallucinated from cleaning chemicals. But I know what I saw. And I know I wasn't the only one. That same night, one of the shelf stockers never showed up for his break. His car was still in the lot the next day. They never found him. I quit the week after. Couldn't go back. Every time I walk into a Walmart now, even during the day, I swear I hear that whispering over the speakers. Return, return, return. And that cart, the one that moved on its own, it's still there, at the end of aisle 17, waiting. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe so you don't miss our next chilling horror story with new stories every week.